As they approached, it sprang snarling at them, but they beat it down with their rifles and drove it into the ruined houses. Then we covered the body up with a sack and went on. Later, we saw the sack we had thrown over the dead Jerry heaving up and down, and there was Pretty Pussy still rending and tearing the body. So we shot it and continued on our march.
Battle summer, I am thinking most of you.
1915 saw deadlock on the Western Front. Trapped in their trenches, the troops were sitting targets for the massive artillery guns lined up along every 30 yards of the front line. Bombardments lasted days at a time.
I never could stand shellfire. You think of absurd omens and fetishes to ward off the shells you hear coming. A strong inward feeling compels you to sit in a certain position, to touch a particular object, to whistle so many bars of a tune silently between your teeth. If you complete the charm in time, you're safe. Until the next one. All day, you listen, calculate, hope, or despair. At last it comes. Your nerves grow tense. And while you continue to look and talk like a man, your involuntary muscles get a little out of hand. Are your knees quivering a little? Are you blinking? Is your face contorted with fear? You wonder, cannot know. Force yourself to do something, say something, think something, or you will lose control.
One man allowed the shelling to get on his nerves. The poor chap seemed to go quite mad. He was unwounded, but came out of his hole where he was safe and ran up the road, gibbering and shaking just like a monkey. I went after him, but could do nothing with him. He was very troublesome and putting the wind up the others. I'm sure he meant no harm and did not know what he was doing. But I remember that the poor fellow became a dangerous pest, and that in the end, when we moved from the sunken road, I had to order a man to fix a bayonet and put 2 inches into the poor madman if he gave any trouble. Prolonged shelling, even without casualties, may disturb the brain of the best of us.
As the war progressed, so the technology of killing advanced. The Germans launched just one attack on the Western Front in 1915, but with a deadly new weapon.
In the afternoon, we had a curious experience. Without any obvious reason, everyone's eyes began to smart until the tears ran down one's cheeks. We heard by telephone that the men in the support lines were suffering the same way. It was only when we came out that we found that the Huns had been discharging gas north of Ypres.
The following action will be taken by every man who hears the shell burst, but not before. A. Hold the breath. B. Halt and adjust mask. C. Take a long breath and shout, gas shells.
On the way to the line, we passed a dressing station. Propped up against a wall, it was a dozen men, all gassed. Their colours were black, green and blue, tongues hanging out and eyes staring. 1 or 2 were dead, and others beyond human aid. Some were coughing up green froth from their lungs. As we advanced, we passed many more men lying in the ditches and gutterways.
Gas. Gas, quick boys. An ecstasy of fumbling, fitting the clumsy helmets just in time. But someone still was yelling out and stumbling and floundering like a man in fire or lime. Dim, through the misty panes and thick green light, as under a green sea, I saw him, drowning. In all my dreams, before my helpless sight, he plunges at me, guttering, choking, drowning. If in some smothering dreams you too could pace behind the wagon that we flung him in and watch the white eyes writhing in his face, his hanging face, like a devil's sick of sin, you could hear at every jolt the blood come gargling from the froth-corrupted lungs. My friend, you would not tell with such high zest to children ardent for some desperate glory the old lie. Dulci et decorum est, pro patria mori.
Send out the boys of the old brigade who made old England free. Send out me brother.
18 months into the war, the casualties mounted. The armies of every nation began suffering shortages of manpower.
Situations vacant. Wanted. A few wire cutters. Good openings for sharp young men. Apply box 203, No Man's Land.
Facing a dwindling stream of willing volunteers, the British government was forced into action.
London, Friday, January the 7th, 1916. Amid scenes of great enthusiasm in the House of Commons last night, the Prime Minister's motion for the introduction of the Compulsion Bill was passed by the overwhelming majority of 298.
Wanted. Men of good education to join the army. Good pay, no worry. Brilliant prospects.
The provisions of the bill are as follows. All male British subjects who, on August the 15th, 1915, had attained the age of 18 and had not attained the age of 41, and who at that date were unmarried or were widowers without dependents, will be deemed to have been duly enlisted for the period of the war as from the appointed day.
Wanted at once. Platoon commander. Applicant must be offensive, and preference will be given to originality of ideas in this direction.
The ranks now swelled with new conscripts. The British High Command was determined to force a breakthrough on the Western Front. In the summer of 1916, they planned a big push forward in France, near the banks of the River Somme.
Special order of the day, 28th of June, 1916. You're about to attack the enemy with far greater numbers than he can oppose to you. Englishmen have always proved better than the Germans when the odds were heavily against them. It is now our opportunity. You are about to fight in one of the greatest battles of the world, and in the most just cause. Remember, the British Empire anxiously awaits your every move. Keep your heads as you do your duty, and you will utterly defeat the enemy.
Good morning, the General said when we met him last week on our way to the line. Now the soldiers he smiled at, most of them dead, and we're cursing his staff for incompetent swine. He's a cheery old card, grunted Harry to Jack as they slogged up to Arras with rifle and pack. But he did for them both by his plan of attack.
The general's strategy was to bombard the German trenches with heavy artillery for 7 days and nights. They then expected the infantry to walk over no man's land to an easy victory.
The Huns put a board up yesterday in their front-line trenches, and on it was pinned a paper with the following. We know you are going to attack. Kitchener is done. Asquith is done. You are done. We are done. In fact, we are all done.
On June 24th, 1916, the British gunners opened up, and their fire increased in intensity, combined with fierce gas attacks.